Hi, so I am going to go ahead and read a bit of We Do This Till We Free Us by Mariame Kaba. This is my first time reading it myself, and I just noticed there were not very many audiobooks, or it's difficult at least to get access to those without getting through Audible or other paid services. So I'm going to go ahead and record this and post it just for authenticity's sake and to save time because I've already done a few takes. I'm going to keep in any mistakes or anything like that just to get this just to get through this. So let's go ahead and start part one. So you're thinking about becoming an abolitionist. Level October 2020. It says today more people are discussing and contemplating prison abolition than ever before. Decades of collective organizing have brought us to this moment. Some are newly aware that prisons, policing, and the criminal punishment system in general are racist, oppressive, and ineffective. However, some might be wondering, is abolition too drastic? Can we really get rid of prisons and policing altogether? The short answer, we can. We must. We are. Prison industrial complex abolition is a political vision, a structural analysis of oppression, and a practical organizing strategy. While some people might think of abolition as primarily a negative project, let's tear everything down tomorrow and hope for the best. PIC abolition is a vision of a restructured society in a world where we have everything we need: food, shelter, education, health, art, beauty, clean water, and more things that are foundational to our personal and community safety. Every vision is also a map. As freedom fighter Kwame Ture taught us, when you see people call themselves revolutionary, always talking about destroying, 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 but never talking about building or creating, they're not revolutionary. They do not understand the first thing about revolution. It's creating. PIC abolition is a positive project that focuses in part on building a society where it is possible to address harm without relying on structural forms of oppression or the violent systems that increase it. Some people may ask, does this mean that I can never call the cops if my life is in serious danger? Abolition does not center that question. Instead, abolition challenges us to ask, why do we have no other well-resourced options? And pushes us to creatively consider how we can grow, build, and try other avenues to reduce harm. Repeated attempts to improve the sole option offered by the state, despite how consistently corrupt and injurious it has proven itself, will neither reduce nor address the harm that actually required the call. We need more and effective options for the greatest number of people. Let's begin our abolitionist journey not with the question, what do we have now and how do we make it better? Instead, let's ask, what can we imagine for ourselves in the world? If we do that, then boundless possibilities of a more just world await us. An abolitionist journey ignites other questions capable of meaningful and transformative pathways. What work do prisons and policing actually do? Most people assume that incarceration helps to reduce violence and crime, thinking the criminal punishment system might be racist, sexist, classist, ableist, and unfair, but it at least keeps me safe from violence and crime. Facts and history tell a different story. Increasing rates of incarceration have a minimal impact on crime rates. Research and common sense suggest that economic precarity is correlated with higher crime rates. However, crime and harm are not synonymous. All that is criminalized isn't harmful, and all harm isn't necessarily criminalized. For example, wage theft by employers isn't generally criminalized, but it is definitely harmful. Even if the criminal punishment system were free of racism, classism, sexism, and other isms, it would not be capable of effectively addressing harm. For example, if we want to reduce or end sexual and gendered violence, putting a few perpetrators in prison does little to stop the many other perpetrators. It does nothing to change a culture that makes this harm imaginable, to hold their individual perpetrator accountable, to support their transformation, or to meet the needs of the survivors. A transformative justice movement led by Black, Indigenous, and people of color survivors has emerged in the past 2 decades to offer a different vision for ending violence and transforming our communities. A world without harm isn't possible and isn't what an abolitionist vision purports to achieve. Rather, abolitionist politics and practice contend that disposing of people by locking them away in jails and prisons does nothing significant to prevent, reduce, or transform harm in the aggregate. It rarely, if ever, encourages people to take accountability for their actions. Instead, our adversarial court system discourages people from ever acknowledging, let alone taking responsibility for the harm they've caused. At the same time, it allows us to avoid our own responsibilities to hold each other accountable, instead of delegating it to a third party, one that has been built to hide away social and political failures. An abolitionist imagination takes us along a different path than if we try to simply replace the PIC with similar structures. None of us has all the answers, or we would have ended oppression already. But if we keep building the world we want, trying new things, and learning from our mistakes, new possibilities emerge. Here's how to begin. First, when we set about trying to transform society, we must remember that we ourselves will also need to transform. Our imagination of what a different world can be is limited. We are deeply entangled in the very systems that we are organizing to change. White supremacy, misogyny, ableism, classism, homophobia, and transphobia exist everywhere. We have all so thoroughly internalized these logics of oppression that if oppression were to end tomorrow, we would be likely to reproduce previous structures. Being intentionally in relation to one another, a part of a collective, helps to not only imagine new worlds, but also to imagine ourselves differently. Join some of the many organizations, faith groups, and ad hoc collectives that are working to learn and unlearn, for example, what it feels like to actually be safe, or those who are naming and challenging white supremacy and racial capitalism. Second, we must imagine and experiment with new collective structures that enable us to take more principled action, such as embracing collective responsibility to resolve conflicts. We can learn lessons from revolutionary movements like Brazil's landless workers movement, Movimento dos Trabalhadores Rurais Sem Terra, that have noted that when we create social structures that are less hierarchical and more transparent, we reduce violence and harms. Third, we must simultaneously engage in strategies that reduce contact between people and the criminal legal system. Abolitionists regularly engage in organizing campaigns and mutual aid efforts that move us closer to our goals. We must remember that the goal is not to create a gentler prison and policing system because, as I have noted, a gentler prison and policing system cannot adequately address harm. Instead, we want to divest from those systems as we create the world in which we want to live. Fourth, as scholar and activist Ruth Wilson Gilmore notes, building a different world requires that we not only change how we address harm, but also that we change everything. The PIC is linked in its logics and operation with all other systems, from how students are pushed out of schools when they don't perform as expected, to how people with disabilities are excluded from our communities, and the ways in which workers are treated as expendable in our capitalist system. Changing everything might sound daunting, but it also means that there are many places to start, infinite opportunities to collaborate, and endless imaginative interventions and experiments to create. Let's begin our abolitionist journey not with the question, what do we have now and how can we make it better? Instead, let's ask, what can we imagine for ourselves in the world? If we do that, then boundless possibilities of a more just world await us. And so the next one would be The System Isn't Broken, and I will be getting to that one later. So it looks like I definitely did not read 41 pages worth. There's a lot of introductions and forewords, and the table of contents is very long, and all of that. So I didn't read that. I just wanted to show the artwork there is very nice to look at. But yeah, that is the very first part of We Do This Till We Free Us, minus all the introductions and quotes and whatnot. I will possibly be getting into the rest of them, but that's it for now. Just a taste, like with the other reading that I had posted before. But I wanted to do this one because I didn't notice a lot of other people reading this book. And I know for a lot of people, including myself, it's just more convenient if it's, on audio. So hopefully someone enjoys this. It's a really good reading so far. Have a good rest of your day.